But yeah, we'll also welcome any other kind of brains that want to drop by. Like if you have some kind of pets that want to join us, I know a lot of pets struggle with their brains running around, pushing them to chase after things. Pets are always a great, what we would call them, I guess, a teacher. Pets are always great teachers for understanding the struggles of having a brain. And that's what we'll explore today, how to do the things that we want to do in life while having brains. I think speaking of things we want to do in life, I just had a huge breakfast. It's yeah, we're meeting at a different time zone than we have been, so it's a breakfast time, and I wouldn't have done that in the past. I know right last weekend I uploaded that video on 10 things nobody tells you about recovery, and one of the things I mentioned in there was the physical stuff that can happen as we're making changes, cutting out compulsions. But I know, especially for me as well, I had all sorts of compulsions around digestion and food and using the washroom. And it was so useful to explore cutting those out. And one of the compulsions or sets of compulsions I used to have was around like managing when I would eat. So for instance, like I wouldn't have eaten a meal before giving a presentation, doing something public, because I was so anxious about managing what other people would think, so worried that I might eat something that would make me uncomfortable, and then I wouldn't be able to do whatever in the right way. And so that would make me do all sorts of things, like not if the presentation was in the evening or something, I might not eat the whole day, and definitely not eat right before. But now I recognize that right, doing things it's useful to have fuel to do things. So it's amazing now, and I really enjoy it that I can, and it's really useful, healthy for me that I can eat right before, yeah, doing something. We're gonna sit here. Maybe we're gonna be here. Sometimes we're here for 2 hours. Imagine if I hadn't had breakfast yet and I was just unnourished and unfueled. So I'm not. I am fueled. Welcome everybody that's dropping by in the chat. Jisha, it's good to see you. Tudawak, hey, it's great to see you. Hello, sunshines to you too. DK Chet, and I'm doing well. How are you doing today? Light Song, thank you. Good morning to you too. Pom Pom Kitty, Carlo, welcome everybody. Yeah, what kind of things have you all noticed? Especially, it might have been something physical that you just saw as normal before. Yeah, like avoiding eating before a particular type of event. Oh yeah, what kind of normal kinds of things like that have you changed? Have you seen? Oh, okay, like I saw it as, yeah, normal to just say, yeah, you don't eat before you go and do something in public. But yeah, actually, it's useful to fuel doing amazing things. My downward spiral, Hema. Hema, it's your first live. Thank you for joining your first live. May you have many more live experiences in life. Yeah, Jisha, you're saying yes. Yes, not able to eat and using the washroom before presentation was so common to me. You said, I value nourishing myself and finished my plate successfully. Enjoy that. Twinkle, hello. Joshi, good morning. Some sunshines to you too. Moondope, hello. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, what kind of things is everybody going to do this week? Or even, you could look at it different, because sometimes we don't know what's going to happen in the week ahead. That happens a lot. But it's the kind of thing where we can approach the week with a set of values that are flexible and collapsible. So this is something I often like to explore, because we can get caught on like, okay, there's this thing I'm gonna do, but maybe the context changes and we can't do that thing. It's so useful to look at a set of values that are collapsible. So where we can say, okay, well, I can't do this thing, but here's this other thing I can do. And it's collapsible, like having a value around nourishing myself. So I say, look, I don't know what's going to happen this week, but I'm going to make a point of, in whatever context I find myself, making sure I nourish myself. And that's something I'll put, top of that list of collapsible values. And yeah, that's something I get to explore this week. Uh, I'm traveling, and I was sharing about it on the Mental Fitness Discord server, but I had an unexpected disruption to my travel plans. But stepping into a situation like that, not getting caught up on, oh, I thought I would be doing this, or I wanted to do this and I can't do that now. Being able to look at something like, okay, well, wherever I need to be at this moment, I'm going to make sure I nourish myself. And then the great thing about a collapsible set of values like that is that we can be successful. So some of this like something I talk about in You Are Not a Rock, the mind workout, is keeping success close. Often that involves shifting how we define success, and that's totally okay. Cheat at success. You can keep success close and say, okay, well, success is going to be, how do I nourish myself? And then, yeah, because that's something I can do when so many other things are uncertain. Yeah, as Carlos was showing there, saying, yeah, using values in a flexible way is a blessing. If you search for the right value, it becomes another compulsion. Exactly. Because then too, if we're like, oh, I can't do my special right value, they're like, oh, I can't do anything. I can't be myself, etc. Narina, yeah, you said, why did I leave Japan? Do I miss it already? I mean, I miss all of the places I've been and all of the places I haven't been yet. Why leave Japan? So like one, yeah, I'm eventually I'd have to leave. I wasn't on like some kind of long stay visa or something like that. So there are the practical elements of that. But I'd been there. I'd been on that side of the world for a bit, and right now one of the things I want to be building skills around is Spanish. And so, yeah, although obviously I'm not in a Spanish-speaking country right now, I'm on my way. And yeah, it was time to move for a bunch of other things. There's all sorts of logistics issues that come up when you're doing things around you're kind of mobile. Like our countries aren't really, and government systems aren't really set up for that. So there are also just elements of, I have to, there's all sorts, this is gonna get too technical and we'll move back to brain stuff quickly. At the same time, this is useful to see, if anybody wants to step into, living in more and many different places. Lots of countries have requirements around how you qualify to be a tax resident. And so that's always something to think about when you're moving around, because I think it's great to be a tax resident somewhere and contribute to infrastructure, because we encounter infrastructure and we like it when it works well. And so I also have to keep an eye on, as the year goes on, I have to make sure I meet the requirements to be a tax resident somewhere. So there's also that to consider. There's, you can't, if you're traveling around the world, it can't just be about, ooh, like, let's go over here, let's go over there, that's nice, let's go over here. There is an element of considering the financial residency aspects of it and so on. So that also informs my decision making. Moondog, yeah, he said, I had an unsteady couple of weeks. It's so amazing how your mindset can quickly change and seem like you're stuck. That stuckness comes up a lot. Our brains have this incredible capacity to feel stuck. Like if something's going wrong or we're having some kind of feeling we don't like, it just feels like it's going to be there forever. But also, if we're having some kind of good feeling or something, we often try to make it stuck. But yeah, so with good feelings and with things that are not so enjoyable, we can be light and let them come and go. Civilian said, because double texting doesn't improve the speed of answering. That's correct. So I decided to try my luck here too. My question is, when we stop doing compulsion, stress naturally rises and it's hard to do the things we love. And I wanted to ask, this is the mental workout actually, right? Yes, of course. That just like, yeah, in the gym, you could, like, if you go and lift weights, you could say stress is rising, right? Your body will actually sweat. You'll feel intense physical sensations. Yeah, the workout is lifting the weight and taking a step forward. Blooper. You said, Mark, you mentioned the starting time is 4:30 in your Instagram story. Mm. Yeah, Blooper, I don't, is that a question? Just something about black erasers. Um, in Japan, no, I don't know what those are. Oh, Jet Tutorials. So I'm new here, but just wanted to say I came across your OCD videos and they've helped me so much. Sorry if this is not related to the stream. Oh no, it's totally related. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad the videos have been helpful. No. Yeah, no, on these live streams, we get together to talk about, yeah, what do we want to be doing in life? What do we want to be doing in the world? How do we navigate having a brain as we go there? We can also talk about videos we liked. Twinkle said, I'm preparing for competitive exams. I always get intrusive thoughts that everyone of my friends will crack the exams except me. A voice like, what if you fail? Don't know why. I'm trying to live in the present. So there's a couple things. So one, intrusive thoughts in some ways are like, and not just in some ways, in most ways, are like uncertainty barometers. So you're going to, when you encounter uncertainty in life, like with an exam, it's very likely that your brain will throw up a bunch of thoughts, uncertainties, worries for you to control. And it seems that that's just our brain trying to help us get control. It's like the brain registers, oh, there's something we don't control right now, right? It sees the exam. It's like, I don't know the answers. I don't know what's going to happen. But oh, here's the thing we can control. So even people will often notice with things like exams, the brain might throw up like really just offensive, terrible images, statements about them. Like, the example I often use is like the brain just saying, you're an alligator. And we're like, no, I'm not an alligator. And it seems one of the reasons the brain does that is because we're chasing control in that situation. And so it specifically throws up things that we know are false just because we can prove them wrong. Or we can, we know they're wrong. We say, well, that's not true. And the brain's like, yeah, it's not. That's why I threw it up. Because it's just looking to get that sense of certainty and control in a situation where, yeah, you don't have it. So part of it's seeing that and thinking the brain. It's just trying to bring control to a situation where you don't have much of it. And that's great. It's trying to do its job. It sucks at doing its job, but it's trying. So that's one thing to notice. When uncertainty increases in your life, it's useful to see it, be able to recognize, oh yeah, I'm coming up on a big uncertainty right now. So of course, my brain is throwing up intrusive thoughts. That's one thing. But the other thing is that you mentioned there, you called it an intrusive thought that every one of your friends will crack the exam except you. What if, when a thought like that comes up, you celebrate it? Isn't that amazing? All of your friends will do well on the exam. You can wish them well. You can hope that they do really well. It doesn't have to be about comparison to you and judging you. Carla said, what's your experience with perfectionism? I think waiting for the perfect plan, moment, way of doing things is another compulsion. Waiting for the right, but it is normalized by society. At the end of the game is all about suffering. Oh no. Oh, so I started reading your other, said, but it is normalized by society. At the end of the game is all about suffering now or later, more painful. I didn't understand how the part about suffering was related to the earlier part about perfectionism. So one, I don't know if I see it as normalized by society. I wouldn't get too stuck on chasing, like having things right. Just, and even the reason I say it's not necessarily normalized by society, just because we're terrible at it. So yeah, you may feel like there's some kind of pressure to get things right. But that is a pressure we can notice like any other kind of invented pressure we might feel. It's natural to run into that pressure to get things right, where you can look at basically actually so many struggles with mental health are about judging some kind of mental experience as wrong, judging a feeling as wrong, judging something we're doing as wrong, right? That's all that a contamination, hand washing compulsion is. Oh, this feels wrong. I've got to fix it. They're across the board, all sorts of different diagnoses. You can see people reacting to, ooh, I feel like I'm going to get abandoned. This is wrong. How do I get rid of this feeling? So yeah, it is a very prevalent tendency in society with anybody who has a brain to chase like that. Oh, this is a wrong thing and we've got to fix it. But yeah, it just creates so much struggle, so much mental health struggle. And I'd say that even everybody this week, as you're exploring, giving your brain a hug and having a human brain, just keep an eye out for that. I heard it once referred to at a conference. One of the speakers, I can't remember who they were, but they referred to it as the control agenda. It was at the Association of Contextual and Behavioral Sciences, the kind of oversight body of acceptance commitment therapy, and the control agenda as just this tendency we have to go, oh, this is wrong, we got to fix it. And that itself just creates so many problems. So maybe notice that this week. Notice where you see the control agenda pop up, where we're just going, ooh, that's a contamination, got to clean it. Yeah, what if you don't have to? DK Chen, you said, why is that our brain is so worried about what other people think about us rather than doing what actually mattered to us? Well, I'd ask you that. Why is your brain so worried about what other people think about you? Where did it get the idea that it should chase that? Blooper, he said, I meant that it's 3:30 right now. Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Google then. I just typed a Blooper saying that it's actually 3:30 in Hyderabad right now. Thanks, that's good to know. I just typed it into Google. I was like, yeah, what time is it in Hyderabad when we want to do it? And it told me 4:30. So again, this is technology, everyone. Not useful. Joe Panzer, welcome. Kanye said, what's the best course of action if I always end romantic relationships due to anxiety and end up regretting it? Not ending them. I can't feel comfortable. Oh, so there you've got an interesting, really unhelpful belief there. You follow that up. So you're saying, look, you always end relationships and you end up regretting it. So it sounds like you would like to continue with the relationships, learning how to have anxiety, but then you followed that up by saying, I can't feel comfortable being in a relationship with people I love. Yes, you have like a pretty rigid belief there that's probably not going to be very useful to you. But also there, you're implying that like you can't, like you have to be comfortable. So there's what I was just talking about. I know you posted that before. I was talking about the control agenda, but saying, ooh, I should have a different feeling in a relationship. So if I'm not having that feeling, I have to end it. If you want to extend a relationship, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, you're going to be lifting some weights. You're going to take a step forward with them. So yeah, you see that probably what's very likely is that when you experience a heightened emotion, when you experience an emotion of caring for somebody, right now you interpret that as too much, as uncomfortable, unwanted, something to get rid of. What if there are different ways to interpret that feeling? What if you can have that feeling? What if that feeling isn't a reason to quit a relationship? One of the things I often compare this stuff to is learning how to like riding a roller coaster versus somebody who's like, oh, I hate roller coasters. The person who hates roller coasters and the person who likes roller coasters are having the same physical experience. But the person who likes them is going, wow, this is like such a rush. It feels like we're going to fall out of the roller coaster. Woo. And they throw their hands up. The person who also has that experience but sees it as a bad feeling just wants to stop it. Be like, we got to get off the roller coaster. This is bad. I don't want to get on it in the first place, but now that I'm on it, I definitely want to get off of it. Or he wants to stop it. It's the same experience. And so starting to explore what's it like if we said, oh, maybe that experience is not in the category that I've put it in. Maybe that experience isn't, like, the way I've labeled it is incorrect. What if there are other ways of interpreting? What if that actually is the indicator of going more into the relationship? Like, whoa, this feels like I'm on a roller coaster, I'm about to fall out. I'm going to go set up a date with that person and I'm going to ride this roller coaster and throw up my hands and cheer. Tudorwalk said, through your help, I know that panic in social situations is not the problem itself, but rather the consequence of it. But I can't get myself to accept the consequence of being judged as weird, etc. What could I do? So yeah, well, some of it will be, like, what would it be like if you wanted to be judged as weird? Something I also found really useful to explore with this is in social situations. So what you could do, an exercise that I found really helpful, is identifying in social situations something you want to give. When the brain is worrying about how people are going to view us, it's trying to get something, right? It's trying to get certainty. It's trying to get people to like us, trying to get things right in those social situations. It's doing a lot of getting. So one of the useful exercises can be to explore giving and measuring success just on the giving. Because you might, after the social situation or during it, judge yourself as acting weird or doing something wrong. And that's the moment to notice, okay, like, maybe I am. And Sherburne, you're right. Actually, everybody's going to judge me. Tomorrow on the news, it's going to be, first thing on the news, there's going to be a picture of me, and it's just going to say, man acts weird. Don't talk to him ever again. And like, yeah, no one's ever going to talk to you again. But success at that social interaction was about something you wanted to give. And did you give it? And measuring success just based on that. And so even celebrating a social situation that maybe is really awkward, but still involved you giving the thing you want to give. And so an example of giving something you want to give, one that I like to use a lot, was going into a situation and saying, look, I want to just give my attention to 3 new people. So I'm going to meet 3 new people at this event. Doesn't matter how I do it, doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter if it's weird. Did I meet 3 new people? Did I learn something about each one of those people? And if I did it, then it was successful. So starting to shift how we judge and where we position that success. Because yeah, the brain is always going to put it on the other side of controlling other people. Not only do we not control other people, but we can never get certainty about that. So we'll always be uncertain. We'll always be, because even if we said, like, oh, okay, it didn't seem like anybody looked at me weird at that social event, we'll still never know if we were judged as weird. And so the brain loves stuff like that. So yeah, maybe just exploring, trying it out in some different situations. What would be a success measure that you control? Jed Tutorials. He said, I've been struggling so much recently with OCD and I have noticed that accepting uncertainty plays a big part of overcoming it. Yep. Now I'm having intrusive thoughts on how this method might not work. Whoa, that's a great uncertainty to accept. Right? Because also seeing that even the idea of work, or worked, that often is a certainty that we're looking for. And it really helps to set that aside. So even what I was just talking about there with Tudorwalk, it was really helpful to shift the focus to things I'll do right now. So I'm not doing any of these exercises to make something go away, because that is the mental illness struggle pattern of there's a wrong thing here, I've got to fix it. So we're not looking for a special magic soap to clean away something. We're looking to do things we care about right now. We're looking to give the things we want to give right now. So it's not that I'm doing this to have some kind of effect. I'm looking at what I want to give and I'm giving that right here, right now. And if I give that, then it was successful. Just based on whether I give the thing I want to give. It doesn't have to work in any way. Civilian, you said, I see that you upload a lot of stories that are related to nature. Yes. Do you manage to enjoy all the sounds of nature? Because it was quite difficult for me at first. But honestly, from the way I practice meditation, it can be said that nature also acts meditatively. Yeah, and so I know the nature is so incredibly massive. And I mean, it's useful to notice nature used to be even more incredibly massive. One of the hallmarks of our age, I guess, like the Anthropocene, the age of humanity is a massive extinction. We are losing more biodiversity more rapidly than at, I think, any other point in the planet's history in the past, several million years, right? This is a new mass extinction that we've brought on. So we're rapidly losing animals and insects and plants, all across the board, on land, in the ocean, the works. So it's really wonderful to be present with nature. At the same time, nature is overwhelmingly impossible to be, you could say, like complete again. Like we don't have to get that certainty that we're completely present with it. We can enjoy even just the tiniest little moment of nature. Just noticing a plant, hearing a bird, seeing a little animal scurry through the forest, walking in just one path of the forest and being amazed at how that seems so incredible, that seems so much by all of the nature around us as we take that path. But we could take so many other paths through the wilderness and see so much more nature. Being able to enjoy just tapping the tiniest little bit of nature is a wonderful thing. We can be amazed and terrified of how difficult it is to completely grasp that vastness and that incredibleness. Also, we can recognize that we, through the way we function on this planet, just kind of taking stuff, really trying to get stuff from the planet for free, we are very rapidly destroying it in a way that is not conducive, I was gonna say possible. That won't, isn't going to make nature, isn't supporting it to thrive better in the future. We can definitely do things differently. And so I share a lot of stuff about nature in the hope that, we can all just take a little bit more time with nature. If we spent a little bit more time giving to nature, it'd be a pretty good thing for the planet. Regina Dreamer. You said, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. Why are my values so unstable? Each time I feel bad, values seem not to be important and real anymore. I don't do what I value. Any tips to overcome it? So one of the things I'd look at there is actually, that when things are difficult, you struggle to do things that you care about. And so that's actually, that's amazing awareness. That's so helpful. And that's so normal, so very human. And so one of the things that I like to look at is having things that we can fall back on. So I don't know if you're here earlier, I was talking about a collapsible set of values. And a collapsible set of values is in part because, sometimes everything around us is changing. There's chaos around us. We may be just doing fine, but because of changes in our environment, we can't do a lot of things we want to do. That's okay. So how do we have a set of values we can shrink to still do things that nourish us in that context? But yeah, also, there might be a lot of things going on inside of us, or we're doing lots of compulsions that are getting in the way of doing what we value. So there again, also having a set of collapsible values where we say, okay, if things are really difficult, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do all of the things. But what is one thing that I'm going to consistently do when I notice things are way off the rails? Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. And how do I put supports in place so I can always, or at least try to, or make it more likely that I can do that one thing? Gus, CUS, what's this stream about? We talk about donuts, alpacas, and also how to do things we care about in life while navigating having a human brain. Yeah. And as Carlo put it right there really nicely, we talk about life not as a problem to be solved, but as something to explore. Ravindra, yes, how to learn ACT therapy by myself. Any book recommendations? Yeah, so Stephen Hayes, Dr. Stephen Hayes, yeah, great researcher and psychologist and creator of acceptance commitment therapy, has a whole bunch of books, and also a bunch of books that he's collaborated with on other people. So yeah, if you want to go like very much into ACT therapy, then yeah, probably checking out one of Stephen Hayes' books would be a great place to start. Jody, thank you for catching one of the lives. Oh, thank you for all your support. Akshata said, what's the best thing to do for harm OCD? I would look at cutting out compulsions. Mm-hmm. That's where I would go after. Oh, and Mud is saying this isn't new. So maybe when I put up the time today, maybe I had the wrong time in when I was putting it into Google. So maybe all of the times are wrong. I'm just creating uncertainty. If everybody, if people have missed the live because I told you the wrong time when it was starting, I apologize. We're doing it right now. You said how to handle being triggered. It sounds like there's like a very specific thing you're thinking about. You said how to handle being triggered with a few specific people or situations where you've to take your stand but unable to do it in the way I value due to being so triggered. So yeah, it sounds like there's something, I wouldn't see that as a question about being triggered. Like I'd say that like trying to fix, yeah, like maybe you're going to be triggered in that situation. Yeah, that wouldn't, I wouldn't see the thing to go after as like, how do I handle being triggered there? Well, Mike, welcome. I hope you're having a good time in Tokyo. Hi, Regina. Yes, you brought up a great point about the person who loves the roller coasters. You said a person who loves roller coasters believes she won't crash at the end. Everything will be fine. That's why they love doing that. A person who hates it believes she will be 100% injured. Yeah. Maybe they're both wrong. Narina, so the concept of worrying about someone seems to be connected to love. How do we tell our brain not to worry about people? It seems to be like a cultural norm, so one can feel guilt for not worrying. Well, actually, I find it useful to see what you're describing there is learning how to translate for the brain. Like I was talking about earlier with intrusive thoughts coming up in situations where we're running into a lot of uncertainty. That's just a way the brain communicates. So the brain registers uncertainty and goes, throws up a bunch of intrusive thoughts. And so we can look at that and be like, oh, hey, thank you, brain. You're telling me that there is uncertainty up here. You may notice it with worry. you may see the brain like just start to throw up like a bunch of extreme worries about somebody you care about. And being able to say, oh, like, thank you, brain. I see you're telling me we really care about that person. Carlo, yeah, he said, can you suggest us books to deepen the knowledge about brain stuff? I already read your awesome book. So one of the things I say to people is to make sure that you're giving time and energy to learning about the things you want to be doing in life. So, because it can very easily go, oh, like we got to deepen our knowledge about this stuff, and you'll never have that satisfaction or that certainty, right? So, I would just make sure, yeah, if you've already spent a bunch of time on mental health stuff, yeah, what if you got a book? So usually when people say to me, hey, I read your book, what's something else I could read? I say, like, buy a cookbook. Or like, what is that thing, right? Like, what are those areas in life or directions in life that you identified as things you value, as things you want to be doing more of? What if you learned more about them? Blooper said, I'm attending a close friend's wedding 1,000 kilometers away from home. All of their friends are in cliques, and I feel like I don't fit in anywhere. I feel alone and homesick, which is causing me to do lots of compulsions. What can I do or explore to sit with this feeling and not do compulsions? What would you like to give to the people there? It totally makes sense that if you're at a place far away, that other people are in cliques. And especially if they don't know you, they haven't had time to spend with you, that makes a lot of sense, right? So you have an opportunity here to, yeah, spend some time with people, to build relationships. But yeah, it doesn't have to feel comfortable. It can, yeah. So that's where I'd look at, an exercise like saying, okay, well, what is something I want to give here? What is something that I want to explore here and practice? So what's the success measure? That doesn't have to involve people acting a particular way, me controlling what other people think. But yeah, also looking, yeah, how can you measure success here in a way that's going to be enjoyable for you? Super Uriel 79. Please, could you talk about real event OCD and how to deal with it? I have other OCD themes, but the compulsions are much easier to spot. With real event, it's hard to know when it's a compulsion. So maybe I'll explain it this way to go after like how to know if something's a compulsion. So I would look at instead, what do you want to be spending your time and energy on life? Because when you say it, like there's like some kind of real event OCD, why do you think you have to spend any time on that whatsoever? And I would look at it that way, like spending time on things you don't need to spend time on versus spending time on things you actually want to grow and build. And yeah, you can just spend your time and energy on things you want to grow and build. Margaret said, it's a good idea to start small with meditation. Like try 3 minutes for a few days, then gradually increase to 10 minutes daily for a week, eventually meditating for 30 minutes. I find it a challenge. I always seem to get interrupted or distracted. The only thing I would say with that is, and I think this is I've been thinking about this again because I'm going to make a new video on reviewing meditation apps. So an updated one, going through the meditation apps again. So many of them, I'd say it's a real drawback of many of the most popular meditation apps. They present meditation as this like really small, you can do these really small little things, like, like 3 minutes and stuff like that. But I would say that actually makes people not get better at it. So they do have to like keep logging into that. Oh, we're going to do this like little meditation again. We're going to do this little, like they're just getting hooked on the app versus learning how to meditate. And an example of this would be physical fitness. Right, if you did 3 minutes of physical fitness, 3 minutes of exercise, yeah, like one, it's going to be a challenge because you're always in the warm up stage, where the body's like, oh, why are we doing this? And of course, because we've been spending hours all day being distracted, practicing distraction, it's very difficult, especially at the start, to make the brain do something different. And so, and this happens in all sorts of ways. Even if somebody's going to do a meditation retreat, like say you're going to do a 7-day silent meditation retreat, may sound absurd at the moment, but even if somebody does that, the most difficult period of time is the first weekend, because we've been like doing, distraction, so much, boom, stop. The brain goes, why are we stopping? We've got stuff to do. And so for the first weekend, the brain's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? We got to do stuff. We got to do stuff. We got to do stuff. But then it starts to settle down. And so, yeah, if somebody finds meditation a struggle, I actually suggest they meditate for much longer, because then they'll actually start to get to a point of meditating. That even myself now, like if I sit down to meditate, I approach the first 10 minutes, sometimes maybe 20 minutes, as bringing my brain down to sit with me. It takes time. There's so much momentum to getting the brain spun up and doing things that, yeah, if you stop for a short period of time, there's just no way. If somebody is an experienced meditator and they like, it's very difficult to just stop the brain. And so it's going to keep on being difficult for that short period of time. But if you actually go longer, at first you may actually start to notice, oh, okay, after about 12 minutes or so, my brain actually kind of sat there for a few seconds. And yeah, then you start to actually get better at it in terms of short periods of time. So a short period of time can be, a moment to just stop the brain a little. But yeah, even if you were going to do something short, I would look at, like just really quickly, a 3-minute, walk in nature or something like that. And not having to approach it as like, we're going to meditate here really quick, go. Because actually, yeah, it's putting a lot of pressure on to try to do something like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe making it easy to do short things, but then also exploring how to meditate for longer. Mike, you said what to do when we aren't satisfied with our progress, even though we took some steps to progress. I would change how you measure progress. Millie said a huge compulsion is ruminating over the past over and over, comparing me to my old self. Oh yeah, that would create a lot of struggle. You don't have to do that. As he said, how to not try to fit in a new place. I usually try to please them, try to do what they're doing, even if that's not my thing. But how do I feel I'm also belong here and not some alien to them? Yeah, I mean, it's really natural, right, to want to connect with people, want to be with people. We're very social animals. What would you like to give? Because you're asking like how to try not to fit in. So yeah, what's that mean to you? Like, are there situations you see where you recognize, oh, okay, I kind of lose myself. I throw myself away in this situation because I just want to fit in here. Yeah, what would it be like if you didn't do that? What are some things you'd like to kind of keep? Svilan, no, it's no problem at all. Thank you for joining. Said your videos helped me a lot to start looking at my condition as something that can be taken from, instead of complaining and looking for a solution to problems that aren't even real. Yeah, no, enjoy taking those steps forward and making the brain sweat a little. It's totally okay. Hey, Millie. So yeah, if you find you're really struggling with, seeing those things you really want to be doing and taking those steps forward, then yeah, finding support, working with a skilled professional on just exploring, yeah, what are those things you want to be doing? It's totally natural to run into struggles with our brain and end up, right, going in a direction where like, oh, I don't want to go in this direction. So yeah, connecting with somebody to help support you in adjusting direction can be really useful. and all that good stuff. Sid, I just joined feeling ill at the moment, and it's massively triggered my ROCD. I feel hopeless. How do I overcome this? Any tips on how to stop ruminating? Does meds help with this? Yeah, so, and all the good stuff. There's not enough specifics there that I can really give you a suggestion, or I'm not totally following the, it sounds like there's a lot there with how an illness has triggered ROCD. Yeah, again, even just like I was just talking about with Millie, it could be really useful to work with a skilled professional and actually share about some of these things. Look at, if you want to learn how to cut out ruminating, a great skill to explore. But yeah, it's probably going to be like working with somebody to share about all of the different things you ruminate on. It really helped me to see that we often do tons of ruminating around stuff we like. That's often a more useful place to start learning how to cut out those compulsions. What a great point here. Some bloopers question earlier is saying, maybe also self-compassion for tough feelings. Maybe you don't have to see them as cliques. Could it be they're just groups of people who are already connected to each other? And on the meditation retreat, Mud saying, on 4.5, 4.5 days silent meditation, my most difficult days were 1 and 3. Gus is saying, how can you differentiate between negative thinking and OCD thoughts about yourself and others? Yeah, so I don't know exactly what you mean there, Gus. And so also though, the differentiating between types of thinking and thoughts, not something I find useful. I'd see that just as a compulsion. Brain loves to get us into like categorizing brain stuff and putting it into little boxes. And then we base all sorts of actions around the little boxes we put it in. So not something I find useful. Again, that's just that control agenda. Instead, I'd look at, what do you want to spend your time and energy on? Inside your head and outside of it. You can give your time and energy to things you want to give it to. Other stuff, doesn't matter if it's a negative thing, right? Because just like I was saying with ruminate, it could be a thing you like. But do you have to spend your time and energy on it? Possibly not. Pom Pom Kitty said, do you have any tips on building focus? I often have trouble focusing when I'm feeling unmotivated or my mind is racing. So having a plan for building focus, just like we would build physical endurance. So it really helped me to see that, focus is a capacity, just like endurance, strength, flexibility. If we don't have a practice of developing focus, of building it, so if we're not purposely building it, it would be weird if it was present. Just like you probably noticed, if you're not consistently doing cardiovascular exercise, you don't have strong endurance. It's very flexible. It's also not a thing where you say like, oh, I ran a 5K, now I will have endurance the rest of my life. No, like pretty quickly, if you train for a 5K run and then you stop running, you would very quickly get to a point where a 5K would be difficult again. And so same with focus. If you're not proactively building it, there's no reason for it to be there. So yeah, Gus, you're explaining more. You said, because I know you're not supposed to change thoughts with OCD, but how do you know if it's negative thinking or OCD? And is negative thinking something, I wouldn't get caught up in trying to differentiate between all of those. Or even, even trying to label something as negative thinking. There's thinking and there's thoughts. But what do you want to spend your time on? If you acknowledge hello. Carly said, does perspective shift happen from acting rather than thinking? Yeah, I would see it as acting. Mud, you said there's a new random heart on the side of the chat. I don't see a random heart. They have been making some changes. When I log in to set up the live now, it's different. But I don't see the random heart. If there's a random heart, please click it or something. Gus, I said, is this a compulsion, me watching this stream? It could be. You said, I don't know what some compulsions are. Sometimes I think I'm too cautious with this stuff. So I'd look at Just yeah, what do you want to be spending your time and energy on? If you feel like, oh, I gotta watch the stream, I've got to get the answer, yeah, then go say hello to a tree. Did I press it? Are other people pressing it? Am I meant to press it? Yes, please do press the heart. I don't have no idea what it is. And all that good stuff. He said, how do you stop obsessing over OCD? One of the things to look at are goals. Often, the brain's gonna obsess automatically about stuff because we've set a goal. So for instance, if we see mental illness, any mental illness diagnosis as like a contamination, we've got to clean away. Then the brain is going to do the same thing it would with any contamination. It's constantly going to be monitoring for it and checking for it because we've told it this is a danger. We have to get rid of it. So the brain is just trying to help them by going, like let's think about it all the time. We got to make sure we get rid of it. But it's just trying to help us with the goal that we've set. So if we say this must be cleaned away, brain will constantly be looking for that dirty thing to clean. What if you didn't have to clean it away? Carlos, he said, so books about meditation. A book about meditation. There's all sorts of great books about meditation. If you want you're new to it, then Peace is Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh. Really, straightforward, simple book of learning how to stop and be present and notice things and rest. If you want to go kind of deeper, then even not necessarily a book, because the book actually might be pretty hefty. But if you want to go deeper into kind of a more old school structured approach to Zen meditation, anything by Dogen, so Dogen, because you can even find a lot of like talks and stuff like that where people are explaining maybe some what'll be called a fascicle, which always sounds kind of like a dirty word, but just means a piece of writing, really. So you'll see all sorts of discussions on fascicles written by Dogen. Dogen was a Zen monk in the 1300s in Japan, kind of started the lineage of Soto Zen in Japan, and wrote extensively. So that's why I said you'll probably only want to check out a chunk, because if you get like Dogen's massive collection of his writings, the Shobo Genzo, it's like a massive doorstopper of a book. But you'll probably want to, and some of it's like a chapter on how should monks wipe their ass in the toilets at the monastery, things like that. It was very much about also managing a monastery. Probably not the stuff you need to check out right now. Checking out Dogen gives you that kind of look into Zen in the 1300s. Then also it could be useful to check out some meditation around just kind of fun approaches to meditation, but also deeply rooted in practice. So there you might look up, again, old monks, but Hakuin could be good to check out, Hakuin. One of the interesting things that Hakuin wrote about and experienced was what he called Zen sickness. And in that you can see a lot of what we may recognize as somebody getting obsessed and starting to experience, kind of Hakuin sees him, he gets so obsessed with Zen that in meditation that then he can't practice, and he feels all wrong, and all the kind of depersonalization, derealization, depression, unmotivated, the kind of burnout that comes from obsessing compulsively. And then he writes about his journey to then rediscovering meditation in a healthier way. So it can be useful. So Hakuin's fun to check out. And also Ikkyu. Ikkyu was a Zen monk who's kind of popular, again, very old, but kind of popular still in modern or contemporary Japanese pop culture. Ikkyu just wrote kind of funny poetry as well on meditation. And Ikkyu, if you looked it up, would be Ikkyu. And you can also get collected writings of Ikkyu on like bookstores and stuff like that. Joy Panther said, how do you handle existential dread? Oh, a lot of things are going on in the world lately that seem to indicate a retreat of community, compassion, etc. Is it just about giving and hoping this ripples out. Also, my real life friend Becky is in the chat. She's enjoying the Brain Talks. Oh, hi, Becky. Thanks for joining us. So I think you touched on something really useful, George Panzer, but I'd watch out for the idea of things rippling out. Our brains love to go like big, expansive, like see, anything we do as affecting, the entirety of the future. It sees like existential dread, like this big existence, and like we must solve this. But yeah, maybe we don't have to solve some big thing. Maybe in this moment, we can do something that we don't even have to see as small. That like taking a walk in the forest is not some small thing, is not some stepping away from society or a community, or stepping or ignoring existential dread or anything like that. Like a simple practice like that is, in that moment, all there is, and a really incredible thing to do. Pausing to have a cup of tea. Like that's enough. The brain's always gonna go, oh, we gotta like fix existence. And you kind of grab it and bring it to right now. And then it's gonna go, oh, okay, we're gonna drink this tea because this tea is gonna ripple out and fix existence. And just bringing it back, say, no, it's just a cup of tea. That's enough. And all that good stuff. You said, how much work do you do when you're recovered? You put work in quotations there. Can you explain what work? I'd say I work a lot, but I don't think I do the work that goes in quotations. Arturo said, don't you think sensory motor OCD is 80% of the times badly diagnosed? It is not more related to classic anxiety. So I don't even find it useful to have like sensory, like those different labels and things like that. I wouldn't see them as existing. Or I mean, like people use them on the internet, but I wouldn't say they're useful outside of it. The idea is, so even same with like something that's like classic anxiety. Yeah, I don't find these things like as distinct. I would though suggest that if you're going to get into themes, like so sensory motor OCD, I would say that it is not disconnected from other themes. So working with people over the years, I can, like if somebody tells me they are struggling with sensory motor OCD, I can probably guess a bunch of other themes they used to have. It's pretty consistent. It is a consistent pattern, again, of kind of control and checking that we then extend to physical experiences. But it's quite typical that there are all sorts of things that people would see as other classical OCD symptoms that they've struggled with. So yeah, pretty consistently. But at the same, like I wouldn't find it useful to get caught up in like, is this OCD, is that anxiety, is it, because there's going to be patterns of ways that people are spending time and energy on things that aren't helpful to them. And then there are going to be changes they want to make to spend that time and energy on things that are actually useful to them. And so, yeah, regardless of whatever label they put on it, that would stay the same. Rebecca, thanks for joining us for the Brain Talks. I'm glad Jim brought you in. Let's grow. You said, I'm stuck. How can I study with this? I don't know what this is, but I bet you can study with it. Maybe just pull it up a chair. Give it a book to read. And all that good stuff. I said, how do I stop checking how I feel in the morning? I also trigger myself when I remember my OCD anxiety. Yes, so useful to see that. Very common. People will like wake up and immediately check for the thing to fix and control. And then of course, because the brain's gonna try to help us, the brain's gonna find it, because we're like, I wanna get rid of this thing. And the brain's like, this thing? okay, let's get rid of it. It's just trying to help you. So again, that's why it's useful to look at the goal. So, right, because if your goal is to get rid of the thing, the brain has to check. You've been like, this thing is dangerous. We have to make sure it's not here. What's the brain going to do? It's like, whoa, we just woke up. We're back in the world. Is the danger here? It's of course going to check for the danger. So yeah, what if you didn't have to get rid of it? Gus said, Mark, your video was useful on the way to accept thoughts. Sometimes I'd spend 2 minutes figuring the right way to accept a thought. Is this the right way, etc. They said, how do you deal with burnout, brain fog with OCD, and is SSRI medication useful to start with? So I don't know about SSRIs. I didn't take them, and yeah, whether you do or you don't, totally up to you. It's still going to involve making changes. So yeah, like there's lots of different supports people will tap into. Whatever support you find useful for making those changes, I think is great. But having that focus on what are the changes you're going to make, like what's the plan for that. We said how to deal with burnout. So I'd look at, well, what's causing the burnout? Is it something that you're doing? Is it stuff that's happening around you? So do we need to change things that you're doing? Do we need to change the systems around you? When it comes to brain fog, that's going to be just an example of us judging a type of contamination. Like, oh, this feeling shouldn't be here. I have to get a right and perfect feeling up there. And then, of course, we want to get that right and perfect feeling in our heads. We're not going to have it, right? Because the brain's just trying to give us that thing to fix. S said, how to make friends at a new place while still being ourselves. I failed making friends at every stage of my life, and now I have fear related to making friends. Okay, so what if you didn't have to make friends? What if there were just a bunch of actions you wanted to do with other people? Yeah, what would you like to give to other people? What would you like to practice with other people? But yeah, you don't have to get anything from them. Yeah, what would those actions look like? Yeah, oh, and Mud, on this, he said, yeah, that's so true about brains going big with stuff. I ruined my whole life and that of others by trying to be myself in the desert. Right? Yeah, the brain loves that. It just goes, this thing has, yeah, contaminated everything. Or it goes like, this thing will save everything. And yeah, it's often just smaller than that. Yeah, we can't, I always found it was like my brain was like a dog. And so the dog's always pulling on the leash. And we kind of have to grab the dog and bring it back to the present, to just this moment. I lost the chat. Boom. Yeah, I'm catching it. RXV9 said, when I try to stop ruminating, my brain feels uncomfortable and I don't like it. How can I go through this? It's like I'm saying to myself, I'm ruminating again, but it's also ruminating thinking that. Yeah, so one, like I talked about in the recent video, it can help to make compulsions okay. So even with ruminating, right? Because if we're like, oh, ruminating is the bad contamination, got to get rid of it, then we end up checking to see if we're ruminating. Of course, we end up ruminating on that and we end up stuck in our heads. And so, yeah, it really helped to just see, okay, like if I notice I'm spending my time and energy inside my head or outside of it on things I don't like, that's amazing. I can notice that. And in the next moment, if I want to give my attention to something else, that's something I can do. What would be that thing in the next moment that I'd like to give my attention to? And then we can just easily bring ourselves there. When you bring yourself there, it's probably still going to feel uncomfortable. Yeah, our brains just have this incredible capacity to feel uncomfortable around things that are useful to us, and then feel comfortable doing things that are not useful to us in the present, like in the short term, even though we know doing those things that aren't useful to us is going to make us more uncomfortable in the long term. So often what we're doing is sitting with short-term discomfort that's actually going to lead to long-term comfort and happiness and ease. And so we kind of flip it. Yeah, if we're doing something that feels easy right now, it's probably going to feel uneasy later. If we're doing something kind of uneasy right now, it'll probably feel easier later. Arturo, you're welcome. Carlo said, do I practice CrossFit? Not at the moment, because I move around a lot at the moment, so I can't like always have access to a CrossFit gym. I have in the past, and yeah, in the future, I've looked at lining up some time in a place where I can just be close to a CrossFit gym, and yeah, so I would do it again in the future. George Penzer is saying, yeah, this is it. To all that good stuff's comment. I think mornings are where it all goes wrong for me. 95% of the time I wake up, I think I feel rubbish. Boom, back to sleep. It's so hard because of the cortisol spike first thing. Yeah, mornings, really consistently. Mornings are always one of the most challenging experiences, places. So it really helps me to, even now I would say my mental health practice is just breakfast. It's really useful to have an approach to mornings. And yeah, when I was working on a lot of skills, I would have my morning laid out as soon as I woke up. Like I used to put a note on my phone telling me what to do. Because if I checked in with my brain about what should we do, it was gonna come up with an answer that wasn't useful to me. So yeah, knowing the kind of thing we'll do in the morning, that doesn't mean we're gonna feel good. It's okay, I'm gonna go do this thing and I'm gonna bring this super uncomfortable feeling with me. And all that good stuff. Yeah, it's how to stay hopeful when having a dip in recovery. What if you don't have to like have another feeling? Because yeah, we can get into if feeling down is then something we try to fix with being hopeful or being motivated. It actually puts those dips as a prerequisite to moving forward, to doing things, and so on. So actually, I would look at having something in place that's going to be consistent. So yeah, if you want to explore hope, because often there are a whole bunch of unhelpful ideas we have around what we can do and how we can take care of our mental health, but making that something that applies also when things are good. That it's not just about, oh, I'm having a dip, I need to cheer myself up, because actually what we're doing then is requiring more dips. We'll have to keep dipping, because only when we get a dip do we try to find hope and motivate ourselves. Adrian, you said thoughts on working on recovering by yourself versus with a therapist? Yeah, it's very similar, I'd say, to whether you can, with physical fitness, can you do it on your own, or is it going to help to work with a person? Same with mental fitness. If you can make changes and build skills on your own and have that perspective to take a step back and see, oh, okay, here's a bunch of things I'm thinking. They're probably wrong. Okay, what's going to be a more useful approach? Yeah, if you can do that on your own, go for it. Yeah, we know from research, and there's been a bunch of studies on this, following things like self-help books, online programs, etc., can be just as effective as working with a person. Sometimes self-help books and things like that will beat working with a therapist. Sometimes working with a therapist can beat self-help books and things like that. So it really depends on what is the support. So what is the quality of the book you're going to follow, or the therapist the professional you're going to work with, and also what's your capacity to actually following through and making the changes. If you see that you have a tendency to actually take everything on, go, I'm going to fix this, I can do this on my own, and that's been a consistent pattern throughout your life, then it'll be really useful to work with somebody. If you've seen that you actually always kind of wait for somebody else to tell you what to do, you're always looking to, somebody else has got to give me the solution and then I'm going to make the changes. Then actually it might be really useful to explore how, you can take on what to do, and you've got to learn how to do that. So there's also that element as well. Gus said, just curious, Mark, how long did it take for you to recover? It feels hard to see long-term comfort at the start some days. I feel like I'm at day one again. So I did therapy for 6 months. Um, but that was, yeah, cutting, making a big change each week. So each week was making a change. It took, what, 2 weeks or 3 weeks to start, though, actually, yeah, probably 3 weeks to actually like follow through on the first change. So it took a little bit of time to get started because it was, yeah, really difficult. But yeah, after that, it was, each week doing something, cutting out a compulsion that, as far as I remembered, had always been in my life. Um, so what I would say, yeah, people, if you're doing something like, say, exposure and response prevention, if you're doing, uh, yeah, like following some kind of therapy program, the change should be evident. Like, there should be no question about am I making progress, because you'll make the progress each week by making a big change, and then not bringing it back. So yeah, I would start to look at that, and that's going to shift though, because then also you're going to transition out of, hey, there's a bunch of things I got to cut out, to like, oh, what are the things I'm adding in? But then you're going to be adding in like something each week that, yeah, you have not done before. Maybe you've thought a lot about, and suddenly you're like, oh, now I'm doing that thing that I'd always thought about. It's just a part of my life now. But yeah, the progress is evident in the changes we make. So yeah, if you want to progress, it's always a funny word to pronounce. It's pronounced differently in so many places. Then you can do that. So what's going to help you do that? Because it's going to be something you do, not some kind of vague, like, is the weather changing? It's not about the weather. It's about things you'll do. S said, is it helpful to always remember we have OCD or some mental illness, or just try to be positive that we are recovering? How do I see this illness? Yeah, so I didn't find it useful to see myself as having anything. It was useful to see that. I wanted to spend my time and energy on things I cared about. And yeah, maybe I wasn't doing that. And that's wonderful to notice. And we can see, like, hey, I have a human brain, and I want to learn how to use it, and I want to do things I care about. So I think we kind of went down the wrong or an unhelpful path with mental health if we compare it to physical fitness. Right? If you struggle with endurance, we don't label you as having an endurance disorder. We wouldn't say, like, is it useful to me to remember that I have a physical illness, I have this endurance disorder, that my body struggles with endurance. I have to, I'm not like other people. I have to do regular, these intense sweaty exercises that are so uncomfortable every week because I have an endurance disorder. We wouldn't approach it that way, right? If you want to go to the gym and you're like, hey, I really want to get better at endurance, they'd be like, yeah, that's great, let's do it. And it's not a problem. It's just, there's a capacity you want to build. So in physical fitness, we look at the capacities you want to build. We don't label you as the thing you struggle with, but we could have. We could say, like, hey, we should really talk more about weakness disorders. Like, if we have a weakness disorder, we got to normalize going to the gym to build strength. There's nothing shameful in lifting weights, right? You can own your weakness disorder. If we approached physical fitness like that, going to the gym can be challenging and it's difficult to access. It would be even more challenging if access to the gym meant you had a disorder. That, like, people are like, oh, you go to the gym? Like, yeah, like, what's wrong? Like, that's cool. I mean, no, like, a friend of mine went to the gym. He was really inflexible, and like, yeah, like, he could only, bench like 200 kilograms. Yeah. I really accept that you're working on that experience. As Carlos said down below, I think it's more useful to think that you have mental health and you were trying to take care of it. Yeah, like there'd be no reason for your mental health and fitness to be in some kind of exemplary exceptional, excellent state without taking care of it. In the same way, we would never expect our bodies to be in some, like, be able to handle all sorts of difficult situations unless we've been doing things to build that capacity. Mr. Mitchell 100. I'll try to, you've got a couple, you've got a three-part question here. So you've been setting up random times of day. Yeah, then do something simple like stand up or touch my toes. Yeah, I think it's been helpful. So do you have any similar exercises or tips for training self-discipline? So yeah, doing things at random times is a great exercise. I really like that one. Yeah, you can explore all sorts of things like that. Like the question I would always have is, what are things you want to be growing in life? So I would tie it to something around that. So you're probably, because usually, so that's if I'm working with somebody around, first we're doing just some random things. We're doing that just to start to show our brains, hey, like, you've got to follow me. If I choose to go and, yeah, stand up and touch my toes, I'm going to do it with whatever feeling. But then the next step I find in that exercise is to then bring in things that you want to do. So that's what I would look at next as an extension of that. Okay, what's that thing you want to be creating and building in life? Now practicing it with that. So because often it's when we take that step to a thing that we actually want to see, there's all sorts of maybe unhelpful beliefs, there's all sorts of uncertainties around that can kind of pop up and we're like, ooh, yeah, you're right. Oh, maybe I can't do that right now. And so that's the stuff to cut through. So that's where I would take it next. Nerve said, I've recently started seeing a therapist for non-OCD stuff, and they were really kind, but they do not use ACT or specialize in OCD. Should I be open to it then, even though I really like ACT? So what I always find important in therapy is where we want to go and what's going to help us go there. So I would look at that. So I wouldn't be able to tell you anything based on just what you mentioned, because, yeah, who knows? If they have the skills to help you do the things you want to be doing, whatever kind of label or framework gets put on it could be totally fine because it's helping you do what you want to be doing. So I would look, that's where I'd start to look. Like, where do you want to be going? Are they going to help you go there? What's that going to look like? What's the plan for that? Until the sun is coming out. There's like a bright light shining in through the window. Mud, a great point. Mud would like to point out that I pronounce progress as R because that's how it feels. That's how it's pronounced. I love that the kind of the British vowel sounds in the accent are just always so expressive. Mr. Richard, no problem. The questions they do keep the questions short. QA said, any tips on how to treat everything as brain stuff, even when the brain gets smarter and smarter every time to make me feel anxious? Oh, I'm glad the videos have helped a lot. So one of the things I find really useful, so because you see there, you said, you pointed out like intrusive thoughts, right? Like every time to make me feel anxious. But something that really helped me was exploring how I would often react to stuff in my head that like wasn't an intrusive thought. And that is the area that I really like to explore, because we're constantly, that's why even, in my book, the first exercise is learning how to not check your phone. But that's because we often have trained ourselves to be so automatic with something popping up and us then putting it in charge of our actions. So, and it could just be, oh, hey, I wonder if there's something new in the news. And we just open up the news, or we just feel uncomfortable having nothing to do and we're like, quick, take out your phone. So we're constantly teaching the brain then, like, hey, if there's a thing, I'm going to react to it. And it doesn't have to be threatening. It doesn't have to involve anxiety. And that's just it. So we teach it that will react automatically with anything that pops up. So then it's incredibly difficult not to react when it's threatening. It's like about something bad, there's some anxiety with it, something we'll judge as an intrusive thought. So learning how to see brain stuff as just brain stuff is across the board. And it's actually much, I would say, more useful and sometimes easier to start learning that with all the other brain stuff. Because if we react to brain stuff when it's nice and fluffy and flowers and baby sheep, it's very difficult to not react to it when it's something terrifying, like a thought of going to a donut shop and they have no donuts. Yeah, so I'd start there. So since it's all brain stuff, how do you apply that to all of the other brain stuff that's not anxiety inducing? Karthik said, how to deal with tiredness with exposure and response prevention therapy. Oh yeah, having the tiredness. We were actually talking about this, I don't know if on Instagram the other day. So I was on a bunch of planes. So don't, sleep well on a plane. And also then I was changing time zones. And yeah, I can have that tired feeling and I can do stuff that I value. Like that can be there. So yeah, really approaching tiredness, it was really useful to approach tiredness as an unwanted, uncomfortable feeling, just like anxiety. So if I would avoid something because it didn't feel right because of tiredness, it was useful to see, like that feeling can be there. And I can look at values around how to do that thing well and bring that feeling along while I do it well. And all that good stuff. You said, is being at home and not working bad for OCD? Mine's got worse since doing this. It is very common that people will notice that if they are doing or they're not doing stuff, the brain will give them stuff to do. Yeah. But I wouldn't, it's also very useful to learn how to not do stuff. It's not necessarily that, it's bad for OCD. I would say it's more that if somebody's practicing a lot of compulsions in life, not having things to do will probably mean they're going to practice more compulsions. So, it's really useful to learn how to cut out the compulsions and, learn how to do nothing and not fill the space with compulsions. But yeah, if you've been doing a lot of compulsions and this is often the kind of unfortunate feedback loop, if somebody's doing a lot of stuff that's creating an unhelpful kind of mental catastrophe, disaster conundrum, they might then go, ooh, I'm going to step away from doing stuff. But then stepping away from doing stuff removes things that could occupy some of their brain space. Suddenly they have even more brain space for practicing the mental illness, and then they can just end up doing more of it. Carlo, you said how to deal with guilt about wasted time with poor mental health. Is it just welcome guilt a good approach? Yeah, like spending any more time on it would just compound it, right? If you have that awareness to see, oh, I did not enjoy spending all of my time on brain stuff. I'd like to be out there living my life. Yeah, then no more time needs to be spent on the brain stuff. You can get living. So yeah, if you notice that in that moment, be like, oh, I wish I hadn't, wasted all that time or whatever, being able to see, oh yeah, so I don't need to waste any time right now. Let's get out there and get living. Stefan, you said, I have moments each month where I have a high, no more OCD, and then a huge low. I've relapsed, I need to go back to therapy, and it's so weird how I can go so fast from one to another. How can I mitigate this effect? So I always encourage people to see they are the same. If having no OCD is a good thing, what do you need in order to keep having a good thing? You need to go back to OCD. You have to go back to the problem so that you can fix it again. So actually I describe them as two parts of the same cookie. And so one side has icing on it. That's the part of the cookie that we love. But if you like that part of the cookie, of like, oh, I don't have mental illness anymore, I don't have intrusive thoughts, anxiety, this is amazing, this is the best thing ever, this is what I wanted, then the only way to continue that is to have it again. So it's just the same kind of addiction loop. If you like the high, you're actually committing to the withdrawal. And the brain's going to give you more withdrawal because it's like, oh, when we fix this, we're going to feel so high. And then we do, and then it's okay, well, now we need to have an even bigger withdrawal so we can fix that. And so really, this is one of the reasons for, saying like we want to be able to have any thought or feeling. So the absence of a thought or feeling is not any kind of success. Success has got to be about things we do, and we want to learn how to do those things with any thought or feeling. So if we're having all sorts of intrusive thoughts, that's amazing. We're going to do the things we want to do. We're going to give the things we want to give. We can be excited to have any of those thoughts because that gives us an opportunity to build skills. Just like going in the gym, if there's some heavy weights there, that's not a problem. It's like, oh, this is great. Like I get to actually apply skills. Like I have skills. I want to put them into practice. I want to do the things I care about. If you go in the gym and there's no weights and you get excited about that, that's probably not that helpful. So you can do the things you really want to do. So could you get excited about having thoughts and feelings? And if there are no thoughts and feelings, it's irrelevant. You can do the things you care about. What I would like to point out in this is, yeah, my pronunciation was not accurate with progress earlier. It's much more screamy. Thank you for pointing that out, Model. Carlo said, I think tiredness is tricky because sometimes it would be really beneficial to rest, but most of the time we're just undisciplined and we avoid compulsively to do the stuff we want. So it really helped me to see the, I just had it all mixed up. Like if I needed to rest, that would probably be a time when I would push myself. And if I needed to take a step forward, that was often the time when I would, withdraw and go, oh, like this, I can't do the thing I want to do. So it was really useful to look at both learning how to have feelings I'd often avoid before, but also learning how to rest rather than waiting until there was some kind of disaster to make me rest. That's, we can rest proactively. Even just when we feel good, we don't have to wait to feel bad to rest. Rest and care and nurturing ourselves is just useful. Marlos, yeah, he said, I need lots of sleep, but I feel like I sleep my life away. Is there a way to function with less sleep? I'm talking 12 hours or more. Whoa, that's intense. So yeah, I function with a lot less sleep. I was really impressed yesterday. I got, I think, 5 hours of sleep. That was a big, because I'm still having a weird jet lag times when I'm awake or asleep. So at the start you said, I need lots of sleep. So you had this, I need lots of, like what's the, and then it sounds like you're saying you need 12 hours of sleep is what you're approaching right now. Is that true? Like what's that based on? Or is that just a thing that this belief that you've come to hold on to? Could there be some more helpful beliefs? Bislary Fresh, you said, did I take any medication in my mental health journey? Nope, I did not. Lots of people do. And then you asked also, have I tried transcendental meditation? Yeah, I've tried transcendental meditation before. Yeah, it's useful to explore a whole bunch of different types of meditation. Karthik, you said, no, I meant after sitting through the anxiety for several different activities, say hand washing or body becomes really tired and ERP for the next activity feels tougher. But that's, look, really normal, right? You just did like an exercise. I mean, you could say that for physical fitness too. If you do some really intense exercise, you might be tired after. That's not strange. And all the good stuff. It said how to stop your brain latching onto things. Example, when you said 6 months for your recovery, my brain will latch onto that and compare myself to you. Well, brains love to latch onto stuff. So part of it's seeing that, like being able to go, I knew you'd latch onto something like that, brain. Um, and yeah, pat it on the head, congratulate it. It's such a good connector, the brain. It's constantly like putting things together. Oh, Mr. Mitchell Hunter, enjoy exploring the mornings. Yeah, be nice to yourself as you explore the mornings. Wouter, you said, I'm going to go swimming because watching these is me getting a feeling. Enjoy swimming. Yeah, I hope you have a good day as well. Adrian, you said thoughts on sitting with loss, especially when it comes to relationships. How to do that without trying to care less? No, actually, it's seeing with loss is actually about touching that we care and being able to touch that loss, like feeling the loss across the board is often, if we're going to work on mental health stuff, we're going to be touching loss, and we're really going to feel it and seeing that, yeah, like we feel that loss because we care, because we have things we want to give, and yeah, it'll hurt. Like we'll feel it, and that's okay. It's okay to feel loss. It's okay to go, oh, like that. Like I really care about losing that. You do, and it's so amazing that we can touch that. Oh, Alexander, thank you so much for the donation. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Thanks for dropping by today. Pico Vasuli, they said, how do you not enjoy a high that comes after a low? I can't help feel good not feeling anxious. Well, have you explored feeling excited about feeling anxious? Have you explored feeling curious about feeling anxious? Yeah, what if when you were experiencing anxiety, there were some different things you could start to explore there? Marlos. So on the sleep, you've continued with, well, I do need at least 10 hours because I am more sensitive to sleep deprivation. I used to do lots of short nights, but it made my anxiety worse. I know I feel stronger, more rested with 10 hours. I would, yeah, Marlos, you got a lot of uh, beliefs you're holding on to there that I would have a lot of questions about. Nerve. So do you think meditation is objectively helpful to everyone? Well, so there's something I want to clarify there. Firstly, the point of meditation is not to help with anything. I think a lot of people end up approaching meditation like it is going to be this magic soap. Like, oh, I heard about meditation. It's going to help me scrub away these bad things. Meditation is like really practically just like lifting up a pen. Like it is like if somebody asked you, hey, is lifting up a pen helpful? I don't think it could be. Like we could lift up the pen and put it someplace. Maybe somebody needs it, and I'm like, here's a pen. Maybe I need it, so I need to lift it up. Like meditation is simply a practical analog exercise. It is simply learning that we can have experiences and simply practicing having experiences and not doing things to them. That I would say is like just a function. Yeah, I'd say that as a function, it is useful to learn that in the same way it is useful to learn how to pick up things and put them down. But yeah, people could do all sorts of unhelpful things while they pick up things and put them down. I could pick up something heavy and drop it on my foot. But if I then said, oh, picking up things and putting them down is unhelpful, it's bad, it caused me an injury, that would be not right. We'd think that's an overgeneralization or an exaggeration. Right? We're just doing an action. What people do with that action could be useful, could be helpful, could be problematic, could be damaging. That's how I would approach that. Vegan Knowledge, thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate the support. Yeah, Alex Vegan Knowledge, yeah, thank you for stopping by and sharing the support today. I appreciate it. Mud369 points out that it's okay to feel loss messily. It is. You made up a word there, but it's a really useful word. Vegan knowledge. It said, it seems my body wakes before than I used to be able to, though I've heard you sleep less as you get older. I'm 46. I feel better the more sleep I have too. Everyone, that brings us to the end. I appreciate you stopping by in the hotel room this morning. I'm glad we could explore brains. If anybody has a question you were sitting on right there that you really wanted to ask and you hadn't typed it in, throw it in there. And then otherwise, we'll wrap things up. We'll get on with figuring out how to pronounce progress with the appropriate amount of screaminess in our pronunciation. We'll enjoy doing things today. I want to thank everybody for dropping by to share about your brains, share about the things you're doing in your life. Omar asks, how's my vaccinated arm? I got a cute little Band-Aid where I can feel it, but it is a little sore today. But I was surprised because lately, and so everybody does not know. Yeah, there's a vaccine I had to get as part of the the uncertainty and travel issues I ran into. So I found a way to get the vaccine yesterday on a Saturday morning, and there weren't any side effects. Yeah, I guess I can feel my arm is a little more sore than it would be, but yeah, because I noticed right with the COVID vaccine, I would really kind of I would feel it the days after. But yeah, yellow fever, it's pretty easy to take. Vegan knowledge. I am, yes. What part of the world am I in? I'm in one of the good parts of the world. Always. Adrian, you said, I'm in a particularly stressful period with studying for a big exam. I've noticed more thoughts becoming stickier. Yeah, and Adrian, yeah, you probably missed it before. We were talking about an exam. Somebody else is doing an exam here. And yeah, it's just natural that when there's the uncertainty of an exam, you're going to notice the brain kind of like throwing up thoughts, trying to give us something to control and get certainty about. So yeah, you're noticing they get stickier and things like that, and being able to see, like, hey, brain, that totally makes sense because we have an exam we've got to work on right now. Nice. Al said, my brain will throw up. Did you touch that? Around blood, bird poop, etc. Even when I'm feet away, leading to contamination compulsions to make sure I don't have it on me and spread a disease. How to accept this uncertainty when my brain says I touched it and it feels selfish not doing compulsions that I feel protects my family, everyone around me. I don't want others to have a disease. Yeah, so it will involve, right now, the way you described it, where you said, when I'm feeling that way, leading to contamination compulsions. So it can really help to see nothing leads us to contamination compulsions. We can definitely notice an uncertainty, right? Notice, wow, I really care about my family. I'm choosing to do a whole bunch of compulsions. But we do them. But also you can cut them out because actually doing those compulsions, is going to create other issues down the road. And yeah, it can really interfere with spending time with our family and caring for them. But yeah, the uncertainty will be there. And that's an opportunity to notice how much we care. To notice like the brain's way of expressing love is right to go, wow, a horrible thing could happen to somebody we love. We've got to spend our time and energy fixing it right now. But it is just trying to find a way to express that care and that love. And so, yeah, it can be useful to see that and be like, yeah, Brent, I get it. I really, I care about my family. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. But also, I'm not going to choose to create something that's not beneficial to us by doing a whole bunch of compulsions right now. But I see that. I see that fear. I see that love. Am I doing a world tour? Yes. We will, in the months ahead, start to do in-person workshops and get-togethers because, yeah, here on the edge of the robot artificial intelligence revolution, it'll become more and more important that we do things, yeah, in-person, real things and interactions. And all that good stuff. Yay. Uh, and all that good stuff. So I would, I, yeah, that question. So I would just look at it in context into all the other things we talked about. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I wouldn't see that as a thing. Like, yeah, you're having experiences. I wouldn't look at, like, I wouldn't have any advice on that. Joe Penter. Yeah, he said, with trauma loss, is it to expected to have strange bodily reactions to pop up weeks after the main obvious emotional grief period is up? Oh yeah, hugely. Is it even helpful to notice these sensations at all? I think it was helpful for me to see, oh, like there was a very predictable pattern to working through something up here to it then traveling out in some kind of physical way. And so yeah, it might just be noticing, oh, like, okay, yeah, I get it. There's a physical thing here right now. Oh, this always seems to happen after these other kind of emotional experiences. Okay, like I can make space for this. So yeah, some of it I find is just being able to see it as like a very natural physical reaction, just like we have all sorts of other natural physical reactions. Like if we get an injury, that something might scar over, or there might be a scab. We might feel the urge to itch the scab. Being able to see, oh yeah, like actually, I feel that urge right now. I understand. Yeah, I had an injury. Now there's a scab there. I want to let it just heal. I'm not going to itch it. There's all sorts of kind of physical analogs like that. Mr. Mitchell Hundred said not OCD related, but what's your favorite dish to cook if you cook? No, so I don't get to cook as much as I used to when I was always in one place, but I really enjoy cooking. And when I go to a place, I always look at, I'm always excited to go to my new grocery store and find things to cook. And I think, yeah, in part there are a bunch of favorite things I like to cook. There were all sorts of things I didn't used to cook because I'd have all sorts of fears around germs, contamination, not cooking it right, and things like that. And so I'd say now things I really like cooking, like I like that I can cook fish now, because that would have been like just a bundle of uncertainty in the past, but being able to get a piece of fish and cook it nicely, and also like not need to like dry it out to like yeah, like dry it out and burn it in the pan because I'm worried about not cooking it right. I really appreciate, yeah. Yeah, vegan knowledge. This is really common. You said I actually experience less anxiety, if this makes sense, the more real stress I have with work, for example. It's like my mind focuses on the real issue, not the perceived danger. Yeah. Really common. It seems that our brains are kind of looking for an amount of compulsions or an amount of control. And so, yeah, when there is something to control, the brain, yeah, it's getting it. It's like, oh, okay. And then later when it's not there, the brain goes, oh, I'm gonna make something so we can go and chase control again. Kimberly, thank you so much for the donation and the support and the cute character waving. Thanks for joining us. Oh, and Tudoa as well. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate. Oh, what is your character? Oh, thanks. Thank you. I really appreciate the support. Thanks for dropping by and sharing the question earlier. Kimberly said, "What's my selection process for choosing a tattoo artist?" I would just follow. I just follow them now on things like Instagram, and yeah, um, and then there's particular things that I'd be looking for. But yeah, just connecting with a bunch of artists and then seeing. And that even like we have a bunch of tattoo artists in our community as well. Yeah. Luna the Grey said, "Have you got any advice on retaining good mental health when faced with chronic health issues?" So it's great that you're even asking the question, and because it will be actually a process of saying, look, like, because doing what we value, taking care of our mental health and fitness, is always about saying, given the context in which I find myself, how do I value spending my time and energy? And so when there's a chronic health issue, that's part of that context. So then being able to look at, because sometimes with chronic health issues from medical practitioners or ourselves, we may be in a position where we're having to do a bunch of checking, a bunch of controlling. There's lots of uncertainty. And so stepping into that, it's useful just to be aware of, hey, I want to take care of my mental health. Also, I'm in a context that's going to push me into a bunch of checking and controlling. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's going to be physical pain. I'm going to want to get rid of it. So how am I going to have supports in place to interact with this stuff? And so just starting to look at those questions while recognizing the reality of that context, I find, yeah, that's just a great place to start. These things, they're really going to be there. So how am I going to navigate them? Because it could be so easy to just get sucked into spending all of my time and energy on them. And there is going to be a lot of time and energy spent on them. So also recognizing that because sometimes they'll require a lot of time and energy, the brain then is learning. It's going, oh, okay, you want me to do this. You want me to go and like fix and control, and okay, I can. And then what happens is when there's not as much of the chronic health issue to deal with, the brain goes, oh, you need something to do? I can think of things to do. So we've also got to be aware of kind of the momentum, how the brain is getting spun up, being able to see, okay, I can see that I don't have to get caught up in what it's throwing up because it's just reacting to the fact that, oh, actually, we're not having to spend as much time right now on the chronic health issue. It's looking to get that same hit of compulsions. I knew it was going to do this. I don't have to get caught up and engaged with that. So yeah, be kind to yourself as you explore that. Adrian said, thoughts on reacting unreasonably when your brain uses the logic that someone without OCD might do a similar action, which you see as potentially compulsive for yourself. Yeah, well, no, I always see that taking care of mental health is unreasonable. And again, use physical fitness as an example. If somebody wakes up at 5 a.m. to go running, is that reasonable? Like I would say a person who doesn't have an endurance disorder wouldn't do that. If you're going to take care of your mental health and fitness, you're going to do things that aren't normal. And so, yeah, it really helped me to see that actually, because sometimes when people talk about getting over mental health issues, they present it as like going back to normal, but it wouldn't be. Like we recognize that with physical fitness, like anybody who's building any kind of physical fitness skill and some kind of hobby or something is doing things that normal people do not do with whatever it is. Even if your physical fitness hobby is lawn bowling, do normal people lawn bowl? No. You're doing something that people normally don't do. And that's wonderful. You can embrace that. Aurora said, recently I've been feeling like I'm going to die constantly. I've had bad DPDR most of the day and feel like I'm going to faint or have a heart attack. What kind of compulsions fuel this? So I have a video on YouTube on depersonalization, derealization. It can really help to see that it'll involve a lot of checking and judging physical sensations. So like I feel like I'm gonna faint or have a heart attack. So we do a bunch of checking around like wanting to have like a clean physical experience. And then the result of that is that we always feel it's contaminated. So think it's the same kind of compulsions that go into a hand washing contamination set of compulsions, because the person's not actually contaminated, but they'll feel like they are, right? Like I used to wash my hands all the time and I was constantly checking if they felt clean. The result of that is that they don't feel clean. The result of that is that I would feel like I did have something on me that was contaminated, right? It feels wrong. So depersonalization, derealization are about setting this absurdly high, impossible standard of what it feels like to be real, to be ourselves, to be clean. Because of that, and we're constantly checking for it and trying to get it, we then always feel contaminated. We don't feel real. We don't feel like ourselves. And so that comes from those checking and the compulsions to chase it, to get that right feeling. Nick said, is there a benefit to taking time off to focus on recovery? The majority of my triggers, blood, poop, etc., pop up there. I feel like I can't make headway in therapy with so many daily triggers. Yeah, so I would ask, so what does making progress on recovery look like if you're going to avoid all of the triggers? Because it sounds like you have the perfect situation there to cut out compulsions. Yeah, so if someone's going to take time off of work, I always look at, because it could be possible taking time off of something, but like what are the changes you're going to make, and having a really, really clear plan for how that stuff is going to happen. Adrian said, thinking about self-compassion lately, I realize many fears around loss are about being blamed for it. If something is theoretically preventable, is this just about being nice to yourself? It can be really great to be nice to ourselves, because if we have, and this will wrap up here because I think this is a great note to end on. And so maybe I see, Ches, you had a question. Maybe I'll answer that and then we'll wrap up with what Adrian just asked about. He said, I feel like intrusive thoughts, Ches says, I feel like intrusive thoughts, etc., increase if something stressful happens in real life. Oh, yeah, is this common during recovery? Yes. We talked about that a couple times today. It's the uncertainty. The brain just goes, there's something stressful, uncertain here. And then it's going to throw up intrusive thoughts to give you something to control, given that there's this stressful thing you don't control. And so, yeah, I wouldn't see that. You asked, though, is that common during recovery? I wouldn't see that as a recovery thing. I would see that as just a human brain thing. If humans are experiencing a lot of uncertainty, it's very common that the brain will throw up lots of intrusive thoughts to give them something to control. So now, Adrian, and our thing to wrap up the day on. So for everybody, so Adrian was saying, I realized many fears around loss are about being blamed for it. If something is theoretically preventable, is it just about being nice to ourselves? It helped me to see that we're kind of like two people all the time. There's ourselves, and then there's kind of how we talk about ourselves in our heads. So there's kind of this us, and then there's this us kind of manager. There's two of us. Imagine you're two people working in an office. How we talk to ourselves has a lot of influence on how we're building trust with ourselves. So if we're constantly criticizing ourselves, we are constantly not trusting ourselves to take on responsibility. Yeah, that's the same as if we were working with somebody and we just criticized them. We were just berating them all day. Oh, you should have done that differently. Why did you do that? Why aren't you like other people? Oh, why'd you waste time back there? If we're just constantly doing that all day, and when anything comes up, we're like, oh, I don't think you can do that. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing you can do, right? We're also like really questioning them. We're constantly checking, are you doing it right? Are you doing it right? I don't think you're doing that right. So we're constantly doing that to this other person who is us. Of course, they're not going to have trust in themselves. If that's how we treat ourselves constantly, it makes sense we're not going to trust ourselves to handle anything happening. Because we know that if anything goes wrong, we are going to be horrible to ourselves. We are not going to support ourselves. So, everybody, it really helps to support yourself. And so think, as we head into the week ahead, what if you were a person you worked with? What if you were somebody you worked with? How would you want to support them? How would you want to talk to them? How would you want to encourage them? How would you be excited for them? How would you celebrate them? Because through that day-to-day work, you're building a relationship with yourself that's going to determine how you step into uncertain situations, where you're going to have to take on a lot of responsibility, where you're going to have to take on projects that are full of, just abstract, vague, uncertain unpredictability. Are you going to be nice to yourself? Are you going to support yourself? in trying things and saying, hey, look, it doesn't have to go perfectly, but I really support you in trying. So yeah, what's it going to be like to support yourself this week as you step into adventures, right? So enjoy that. Everybody, thank you so much for coming on by. Thank you for sharing about your brain. Thank you for sharing questions. To everybody who shared donations today and support, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it really helps with doing this work. Yeah, everybody, wherever you are in the world today, be nice to yourselves as you head out working with yourself into the week ahead. Thank you.